Thank you for tuning in.
This is Baron Dan. We wanted to do one of these every year, but we may have forgotten it for
Ever.
3 straight years.
And then some. But this Christmas season, we kind of hit on an opportunity that has a bit of a personal meaning to us, and we just wanted to kind of share.
That reason is the Krampus.
The Krampus. If you don't know what the Krampus is, first, a little bit of background. Now, the Krampus is apparently a pre-Christian Bavarian piece of folklore.
Basically, the Germans took one look at Christmas and thought, you know what this holiday needs? A child-murdering demon.
The Krampus is essentially, he's referred to as one of the companions of St. Nicholas. Really, if St. Nicholas is the carrot, Krampus is the stick as far as child behavior.
Like the Dean Martin to Santa's Frank Sinatra, except he kills people.
Well, according to some mythology, he just brutalizes, beats, and molests them in a burlap sack.
Oh, so kind of like magical Bill Cosby.
Pretty much, just, fewer drinks.
Yeah, and funnier.
So the reason why the Krampus has a bit of a personal meaning to us is our sister and brother-in-law got married on December the 6th, which turns out was the Krampus Day. And I don't remember where we first heard the term Krampus, but once we researched it, we thought that is the coolest day in September to possibly get married.
And a funny coincidence, her entire bridal party was massacred by a horned demon.
That was a coincidence, wasn't it?
Yeah, I know. It's weird how that works out.
Right, I'm surprised we have any positive recollections of that at all.
Whatsoever, yeah.
But anyway, moving on. The reason why you've probably heard of Krampus is this holiday season, there's actually a fairly big budget film that was just released in theaters from Legendary Pictures called Krampus. And he's described in that film as the anti-Santa Claus, and we're going to discuss if that's a fair summation of the Krampus or not.
Well, Bear. First, we've got to make amends for missing the last 3 Christmases.
Well, how do we do that?
Well, I've got this crazy idea.
Yeah?
Instead of just reviewing one Krampus movie,
how
about we do 2?
Just 2? I mean, if we're thinking like this is an apology, I mean, if we missed like 1 year, then doing a makeup one, that makes sense. But, we have seen a couple of these recently.
True. 3?
I would say that, but just last night we were watching a movie on Amazon, remember?
Oh, alright. Well, this is going to take a lot out of us, but let's go ahead and do 4 Krampus movies.
Bam, you get 4 for the price of technically none, because this is a free thing on YouTube.
And if you're paying for this, first question, why? Follow-up question, stop.
That's YouTube Red. Which, I'm sorry, if no one thinks YouTube Red is not RedTube, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Also, if you're paying for us on YouTube RedTube, don't.
So, we're going to look at 4 films that have to do in some way with the Krampus.
Yes. We're going to be using 2 separate criteria.
Yep, we're going to be analyzing these films. 1, is it a decent movie?
And 2, is it a decent Krampus movie?
Now, keeping in mind, our criteria for the Krampus, we're going to explain as we go along, but we're going with the traditional folklore rendition of the Krampus.
How the Krampus is depicted, what the Krampus's modus operandi is during the film. If that retains close enough to how the Krampus, normally is in folklore, we're going to give it a seal of approval.
And if they just happen to have a thing called the Krampus, we're going to mention that too.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, let's get to the first of our 4 films. I'm going to go out of the order that we actually saw them. Krampus, The Reckoning.
Krampus, The Reckoning.
Well, first, it is a movie.
It is a movie.
Is that where the positives end?
Yeah.
Well, actually, this one had This is one of those frustrating movies that kind of delves into competence every couple of shots. Some of the lighting setups were clever. Other films of this type, they don't tend to film on location. This one had a couple locations to work with, like they had a hospital. Then they had this weird office that they tried to make us believe was a hospital ward that is an office.
My chief problem with Krampus The Reckoning, apart from what we'll go into later, is the box art versus the actual movie itself.
Well, this is just a standard of most direct-to-video horror films. If that box art doesn't sizzle, we're going to pass it on by in the red box.
Exactly. So you've got the monster. Okay, he kind of looks cool. By the way, they have a CG monster in this.
Oh, yes. That is to the film's credit. I expected, rubber puppets and a guy in a costume. This is a CG monster for this film. Not saying it's a great quality CG monster, but it's a CG monster.
Yeah, it's nice to see where they put the money. And the problem is, I was expecting like a winter setup,
Yep, like the box art shows this guy in a snowy forest, which seems appropriate for this character.
Yeah.
They're in like Los Angeles?
Well, yeah, it looks like they're filming like, in the Southwest. Now, you think I'm nitpicking, but it's a Christmas horror movie. What do you expect in a Christmas horror movie?
Christmas?
Snow.
Or snow, yeah.
At least to be set in winter. And I understand other, less cold regions have the Christmas, but it takes you out of it completely.
If they had kind of explored, what Christmas is like in this culture without snow, that's one thing, but just Christmas is like, it's happening in the background.
And they put it on the goddamn box.
It is. It's prominent on the box. It sets an expectation. It does not deliver.
You think I'm nitpicking? It just bugged me while I was watching it.
All right, so by our 2 criteria, is this a good movie?
No.
No, and I agree. It like the phrase I used before, it shows glimpses of frustrating competency. Every once in a while has a competent shot, has some decent lighting set up, but oh god, it's just so plodding and predictable.
Yeah, and there's some very weirdly timed nudity.
Yeah, oh god.
Yeah.
Bald detective butt.
Yeah, there's like 15 bald guys in this movie. Did we mention
that was
this?
the other thing. There was like a bald brigade going on in one scene.
Yeah.
Who's bald is whose?
Not well acted.
So do we want to discuss its Krampus rating now, or do we want to do all 4 of them at the end?
Let's discuss its Krampus rating now.
Okay, so by our standard, what I expect from the Krampus is essentially it is going to punish bad children. That's what all the legends say. That's what the folklore demands.
Yeah, how many kids are actually punished in this movie?
Technically 1, but not by Krampus.
Yeah. Also, it doesn't look anything like the flippin' Krampus.
It's got the horns, but it has like a skull face and some really tight abs.
It's got this crazy underbite, and
yeah, it looks like a generic demon, and the other problem is it punishes people by burning them alive, which is not something Krampus is known for in folklore.
Yeah.
It's really just, we have a generic monster movie. What monster can we put in there? How about a djinn? Nah, they're not popular anymore.
Yeah.
What's a popular movie monster that's going around right now? Hey, this Krampus thing. All right, let's just throw that in there.
Also, they used the actual image of the historical Krampus in the film.
Yeah.
The girl has a doll that she's using like some sort of voodoo crap.
And it looks, the doll is a proper looking Krampus.
Yes. Yet, when you look at the actual Krampus, it doesn't look anything like that at all.
It's just generic fire demon monster.
It's a monster with an underbite.
Yep.
Well, if you could have just called this movie Fire Demon, and it would have been, probably fine.
That's why I think this movie originally was going to be called like something stupidly generic, like Curse of the Djinn. And then they just decided last minute, fuck it, let's make it a Krampus thing.
I think this is a stock monster they had.
Yep.
On someone's hard drive.
They just put some horns on to make it look more Krampus-y.
Yeah, but you're not going to get a Krampus vibe, or even really a Christmas vibe from this movie at all.
Yeah, Christmas is absolutely happening in the background. If you took all the Christmas elements out of this film, it would function perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I mean, not perfectly fine. It's not a great movie, but as far as the context of the film, Christmas is irrelevant to what's happening.
Yeah.
So this one is, out of the 4, the lowest rated.
It's pretty weak.
It is. I'm trying to think of strengths. Boobs? Not even great boobs.
Well, I'm not one to judge, but
I am. Not great boobs.
All right, well, fair enough. Fair enough.
So our second Krampus movie, and this is the first one that we saw, what's it called? Krampus the Christmas Devil?
Krampus the Christmas Devil.
Now, Krampus Christmas Devil, as far as production values, it's lowest of the 4 that we watched.
It's a significant tier below Krampus the Reckoning.
This was filmed on a DV camera somebody got from Best Buy's clearance section.
Yeah.
Visuals are unimpressive across the board.
Plot is absurd. It's basically a serial killer thing they're doing.
Yep.
We have another bald cop obsessed with a serial killer who is actually the Krampus. Oh, by the way, serial killer is the Krampus. I hate to blow that for you.
We did mention we're going to spoil a couple of these, and this is one of them.
Turns out the Krampus is after his daughter, who is evil.
Yeah, because she's a naughty child.
There's some really weird nudity and sex stuff in this movie.
Like the sex prisoner thing?
Yeah, Krampus apparently has a sex dungeon, which Well, I don't know. It just seems sort of strange.
It came out of nowhere.
Yeah. But here's the weird thing about Krampus the Christmas Devil.
It actually has the most, what's the word I'm thinking of?
Krampusy?
The most authentic portrayal of the Krampus out of these 4 films.
It's also more entertaining than Krampus the Reckoning.
It is very entertaining in that regard.
It is baffling.
This is also the only one, and once again I'm spoiling a little bit ahead, one of the key elements of the Krampus is that he is not so much an adversary of St. Nicholas, but a companion and a counterpart. He's not the anti-Santa Claus as far as the folklore goes. He is essentially the negative reinforcement to the behavior of children.
And Santa Claus is in the movie. Yeah, it's weird. He just walks in on the Krampus' sex dungeon, and he's totally cool with that.
I mean,
which struck me as his odd.
So points to this one for having the truest portrayal of the Krampus as far as mythology goes.
And it's certainly way more flipping interesting than Krampus the Reckoning.
Yeah, Krampus actually does what he's supposed to frickin' do.
Not better, just not as boring.
Yeah, the film itself, though, is the absolute weakest of the entire quadrilogy of Krampus films that we saw.
Get your clothes on! Run! Have a Merry Christmas.
Okay.
All right, so let's move on to the third one, and this might be the odd one to go to next. The actual big-budget Krampus movie.
Yes, Krampus.
Directed by Mike Dougherty, who is also, well, we know him from Trick or Treat, which has really become my favorite Halloween movie that's actually about Halloween.
Yeah, great movie.
It was surprisingly strong.
Not a lot of bad things to say about this movie. It's got kind of that Joe Dante feel, which I think a lot of people are looking for.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
It has fairly stereotypical characters, but they're there for a reason.
And they're all played by, actual actors,
Yep.
so it's not like anyone's just hamming it up for no good reason.
Yeah, you'll recognize almost everybody in this cast. And I'll even give credit to the child actors. They weren't bad.
Yep.
I didn't want to throw any of them out a window.
Great creature effects, I mentioned.
Since this one had the largest budget of the 4, of course, they were able to put in some more CG effects, like little CG evil gingerbread men.
Yeah, very few unmemorable, effects in this movie.
Some great puppet work.
That flipping Jack-in-the-Box.
Oh, jeez.
Oh.
That wasn't effective. That was a good effect.
It was.
That was effective.
Yeah.
So, my complaint about this one is, well, besides the one-dimensional characters, the Krampus that they had, I mean, his visual design was interesting, but they really, and especially the design, played up the anti-Santa idea.
True. And that's, not really how it works in the Krampus mythology.
Yeah.
Also, what bugged me was the PG-13 wall they hit.
Well, that's one of 2 things that I would mention. The
Yeah.
PG-13 wall, I mean, there's no mystery to what this thing is. It is a Christmas horror / comedy. And I don't know if the PG-13 bothered me as much. I mean, they could have done a lot more. They could have put more gore in, more language. I think it was actually okay for what they had. They really pushed that PG-13 as far as it could go.
I don't know. I could kind of feel it a little bit.
Yeah, you can feel that they pulled punches.
They could have gone a little farther with some of the monsters.
There's probably an unrated cut coming.
Okay.
I have no doubt. The second thing, and you actually pointed this out, was there was this weird, shift in tone when they had a very well done but very oddly placed stop motion sequence.
Yes, it's they do the background of the story, and suddenly it's a very stylized stop motion.
It looks almost Henry Selick.
Like a little bit like Leica.
Like it, that's what I was going for.
And it's cool, but it's and it's probably the best way to tell that story as opposed to having the German grandma, just sort of
just have like an actual live action recreation of it.
And maybe just pan back to her horrifying relatives as they tell the story, but it really kind of took me out of the movie.
Mm-hmm. It was a big tonal shift. I'm not gonna say it came out of nowhere, because once she starts telling the story, they kind of pan away from her for a second. They're gonna transition to some storytelling device.
But I'm scratching my head and figuring out a better way to convey that backstory.
Yeah, see, the other thing is that just going with the Rankin Bass style animated Christmas shorts.
Yeah,
it does make sense to use that animation style, but it did just feel it was odd. It felt out of place.
Yeah.
like, you know, like I understand on paper why it was there and it should work, but something about it, just the way it was put together, didn't fold in as well as it should have.
But my question to you is, could you think of a better way to do that?
Not really. I mean, it would still be animation.
You know, it serves the purpose. It's a nod a little bit to maybe, you know, some other sort of holiday storytelling. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It took me out of it. And by the way, it's not a big complaint. It's actually a really good sequence.
Yeah. Also, just in general, very enjoyable movie.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we kind of we're hitting on some negatives here, but overall, I'd have to give it like a 6 out of 10, which is a lot better than I expected it to be.
Yeah. Definitely go and check it out. Or if you're looking for something really terrifying, Chipmunks 4.
Krampus is, you know, a horror comedy. There's no comedy to that one.
Oh, exactly. It is a stark, penetrating drill into your skull of a film.
Yeah, and then they turn on the movie.
Yeah. The fourth Christmas film we watched was A Christmas Horror Story.
Yep, I was only able to find this one on Amazon's direct film streaming service, Amazon Prime Movies.
Yeah, it was a pleasant surprise.
I will be honest, the box art, you know, it kind of suckered us in there because it had that really cool picture of Santa Claus fighting a fairly badass looking Krampus.
And it is a badass looking Krampus.
And it's interesting that we come from, you know, the movie Krampus, directed by Brian Doherty, who did Trick or Treat. That was an anthology of Halloween stories. Now we have this film that is fairly, you know, directly inspired by Trick or Treat, is a Christmas, you know, anthology series of horror stories.
That's a good way to put it. It did feel like it was an homage to Trick or Treat.
Yeah, I feel like it was definitely inspired. Unlike Trick or Treat, you know, where every story kind of came to its own conclusion and then kind of interconnected with something else along the way, these are all told in an intercut method. The other difference is that there are 4 stories told here. 2 of them are shit.
And only 2 are technically Krampus related, so that's about half the movie.
Yeah, about half the movie. Well, 2 of them feature the Krampus.
Yeah. But yeah, 2 of the stories are kind of shit. There's teens, you know, basically exploring a haunted
abandoned wing of their private school.
Yeah. For wayward teenage girls and, you know, yada, yada, yada. There's sort of an entity, you know, standard haunted house shtick going on.
Yeah, there were a couple of jump scares in there, but really it was a very by-the-numbers ghost story.
Okay.
And once again, we're spoiling this one because, well, I think this movie is worth seeing overall. This story just sucks.
Yeah.
It was the low point of what actually was a fairly surprisingly entertaining film.
Second story has an insufferable middle-class family being hunted in the frozen woods by the Krampus.
Yep, and this is where, in this particular production, the Krampus is introduced to us again by an elderly German relative.
Oh, that's a strange thread.
That popped up twice.
Old Germans.
Old Germans.
Gotta watch out for them.
Yeah, we thought we left the Krampus in the old lands. Oopsie.
The third story is actually kind of the strongest.
Third story is the strongest one of this anthology. You know, the parents of a young child go into this, like, you know, private wooded area to essentially cut down their own Christmas tree.
Very National Lampoon's kind of move. Yeah.
Didn't work so well for the Griswolds either, but they lose their son for a little while, and when they find him, he's just somehow different.
They come back home with a murderous changeling.
Which they do some fairly, once again, some fairly effective effects in there. I can't find a better way to phrase that.
I would say if you're ever going to make one of these into a full-fledged movie,
this story would be the one to do.
And, of course, the fourth story, in my opinion, which is the most fun.
It's the most fun. Now, initially, we were actually confused by this one, because the other 3 had a fairly realistic, dark tone.
They were kind of grounded with supernatural elements.
Well, except for the Krampus one, that was...
Yep.
But this one was just silly.
It's balls to the wall, crazy gore.
Yeah, now I forgot that this one also has Santa Claus as well.
Yeah.
Essentially, Santa Claus is at the North Pole, and he and his elves are getting ready for, you know, the Christmas Eve ride. And all of a sudden, the elves are infected by a zombie plague, and now Santa has to fight his way through the North Pole, killing off elves.
Yeah, I'm pretty glad I watched this movie a day after you watched Krampus, because I wasn't satisfied with the amount of gore in Krampus. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one short, you know.
Oh, this one picked up the pace.
Absolute gore crazy, blood, dismemberment. stack of frozen elf corpses. Just great.
Some people like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to scoot over on the couch just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little.
And they had a great Krampus.
It had a cool Krampus. Now, I kind of made fun of the Krampus in, what was it, the Krampus the Reckoning? No, because I said, it's probably just a guy in a rubber suit. This one literally is just a guy in a suit, but it looks cool.
Yeah.
He's this huge, just ultra-ripped dude. Like, I've seen a picture of him out of costume, and he is like a professional bodybuilder. He's this huge, imposing guy. They put the Krampus mask on him. No, he's painted completely white. He has those hooks on chains. It is a good-looking effect. It works.
It looks
really
great,
well.
and
Yeah.
they use it just enough so it doesn't look hokey.
Yep, they use it twice during the entire film.
Which you may think, a rip-off. But no, that's probably, they knew what they had.
They realized that if they kept this on screen for just long enough, it would be an appreciated effect.
So it's a well-implemented and a well-executed Krampus. So yeah, definitely surprised.
Well, just keeping with our theme from before, the Krampus in this film also kind of breaks the rules of our regular Krampus, of our regular Krampus mythology. He doesn't really attack bad children. He does attack a couple kids, but he also gets the parents too. What I did appreciate about this telling was that they remembered that Krampus is, a counterpart to St. Nicholas. Not the Anti-Claus, even though they did have that kind of cool fight. But B, he was also a Christmas spirit in himself.
Yeah. He's just Kill McMurderton, though.
In this, he is more Kill McMurderton, but at least they approach the character in that way.
Of the Boston McMurdertons.
Esquire.
Did we mention this also has a star?
Yes, I keep forgetting. All the anthologies are kind of tied together. I don't want to call him like a narrator because that's just not really what his role is. It has the Shat.
William Shatner.
William Shatner himself.
As the interlocking sort of the common thread.
Mm-hmm. He plays a radio DJ who is taking the Christmas shift, and his commentary is kind of what keeps everything going. What I really appreciate about it, this is the kind of thing that Shatner could have absolutely phoned in, and it looked like he actually had a bit of fun with it.
I actually did.
Yeah, he did. He gave a decent performance.
I'd say this is actually worth watching again next year.
I think I will add this and Krampus to my holiday viewing schedule.
Okay.
I would add either one, if not both.
Yeah. So in terms of Krampus movies, not amazing.
Not great. I mean, the Krampus was cool looking. It was a good costume. He just didn't behave the way a Krampus
But
should.
has a good movie and a good
it was
holiday
fun.
horror movie.
It was fun. Just whenever you see the ghost story, vignette pop up, just fast forward.
Yeah.
That really dragged this thing.
You're not gonna get anything out of it.
Yeah. Confusing and stupid.
All right, so that's 4 Krampus movies. Are we ready?
4 Krampus movies.
Are we ready to name a winner?
I think we've already figured out who our winner is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So let's say it on 3.
1,
1,
2,
2, 3.
Rare
Rare
Exports.
What the fuck is Rare Exports?
All right, Rare Exports is a Norwegian horror film.
And what is it about?
It is about a group of Laplanders who accidentally come across the frozen carcass of Santa Claus.
But it turns out that the legend isn't quite what it was made out to be.
Exactly.
Now, to be fair, in this film, is it Norwegian or is it Finnish? It's from some cold place in Europe.
Well, either one of those.
They don't actually use the name Krampus anywhere that I can remember. It's been a year or two since I've seen this. I don't think they call it Krampus, but when you look at him, he's the flippin' Krampus.
He's the Krampus.
And according to this story, apparently over the years, the mythology got a bit confused where Krampus became St. Nick, and they didn't really separate the two.
And they explain that, too, how that got so mixed up without giving anything else away.
Yeah, it's not sitting down for a history lecture. I mean, this film, you could tell that it wasn't a huge budget production, but it's shot wonderfully.
It's atmospheric.
It's paced very well.
It's genuinely creepy.
And there's a lot of old man dong.
It's a holiday answer to The Thing.
It is, and you said that before, and it makes a lot of sense. It does feel like The Thing. There's some great creepy-ass moments. It's intriguing.
You don't know what's going to happen. The ending is so weird. It's
Like,
just...
The ending, for a second, it almost feels like it's kind of warm and cheery, but when you step back from it and think about it, oh, it's just as creepy.
You're not going to be able to call it. That's the important thing.
Yep, there's no way you're going to figure this thing out.
It's inventive. It's unpredictable.
Yeah, and I recommend this above all the other Krampus movies we discussed.
We've watched it pretty much every year since we got it for Christmas.
It has become our standard.
Yeah.
There's Charlie Brown, there's Wonderful Life, and there's Rare Exports.
And yeah, even, with, of course, you have a multi-million-dollar Krampus movie and a whole bunch of low-budget pretenders. This is still probably, the top, the brass ring of Krampus movies.
So we recommend this one above the others.
Yes.
But Krampus and Christmas Horror Story, still adding them into the mix.
Exactly. It is the best Krampus movie and the best horror movie.
It's the best of both categories.
Yes.
By far.
So definitely check it out.
So I think that's all we've got for tonight then.
It is.
Great, because my eggnog is empty.
You better go fill that up.
That is inexcusable.
Okay.
So, thank you for joining us again this year after the unintentional hiatus.
Okay, we're going to work on that. Be sure to have a Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Keep your Blu-ray player on.
Unless you just use DVD or on demand. You're always fine.
And have yourself a Merry Bloody Christmas.
Get your clothes on! Run! Have a Merry Christmas.